Plantar fasciitis, two words that strike fear into the heart of every runner. Now, if you've never had it, you probably still fear it because you've probably seen so much about it because it's a constant topic anywhere where running's discussed. And if you have had it, well, you know. You know how debilitating and frustrating it can be because it seemingly can come out of nowhere and feels like it never will go away. Well, in this video, I'm going to recount the problems I ran into in 2022 with probably the worst case of plantar fasciitis that I ever had, along with how I finally resolved it to the point where now, through all of 2023, I've been plantar fasciitis free. First things first though, I need to say that I'm not a trainer, I'm not a physio, I have no certifications or degrees in any of this stuff. I am just a very inquisitive and analytical runner who likes to troubleshoot this stuff and has spent a lot of time talking to friends who are coaches and trainers about possible causes for myself based on my own gait, my own running form. And it's been very insightful. So those are the things I do want to share in this video. 2022 for me was a bunch of mistakes in hindsight. I typically run in lower stack, more minimal, more flexible shoes, things like a Nike Pegasus or a Nike Streak Fly. I do still run in Luna sandals, which are barefoot running sandals, and I do come from a barefoot running background with a lot of emphasis on building foot strength, leg strength, and maintaining healthy feet. In 2022, though, I got excited about running in the Alphafly 2 to the point where I only pretty much ran in the Alphafly 2, and I paired it with a Invincible 2 as sort of the daily training, non-carbon plated training component to the Alphafly. Now, neither one of those shoes are the problem here, but what the problem was that I typically run in a range of shoes, barefoot shoes, max cushion shoes, carbon plated, not carbon plated, flexible shoes, stiffer shoes. But in 2022, I sort of just ran in max cushion or max cushion carbon plated shoes like the Alphafly 2. So I went from a lot of different training stimulus to very little training stimulus for my feet. Why did I run in those? Well, I was excited about them and they felt great to run in. I had a half marathon and a full marathon in the fall and early winter of 2022. By the time I got to the half marathon, which was the end of October, my plantar fasciitis was so bad that I could barely get out of bed in the morning and stand up because my feet hurt so bad. Again, if you had plantar fasciitis, you know what I'm talking about. But I still did the race and I ran it in about a 1 hour, 45 minute time, which was about 15, 18 minutes off my PR. Was really disappointed, but I was kind of happy that I did get through the race. Went back, had about a month and a half to early December when I had the marathon and just focused on long runs, marathon pace stuff. Again, only in the Invincible 2s, rotating through 2 pairs of Invincible 2s and rotating through 2 pairs of Alphafly 2s. One was for long runs, the other one was for faster stuff, and it was the pair that I was going to race the marathon in. I get to the marathon and I remember standing on the starting line, actually being worried if I could finish the race. I was confident I could finish the distance, but I wasn't confident in my feet because already at the finish line, they hurt. Now, I stumbled my way through that race. I did not race it, I ran it, and I found a really awkward way of running in the Alphaflys about 10K into that race, which is a very flat way to run in the Alphaflys. You're just landing very flat in the middle of the shoe, which is the absolute worst way to run in an Alphafly. But it helped me get through the race. I got through the marathon in about a 3 hour, 50 minute time, which I was not happy with. I was about 30 minutes off what my goal time was, but I was happy that I could complete it. Now, once I finished that race, I realized that I probably should have stopped running at some point prior to that in 2022 and really resolved the plantar fasciitis before I got to the race. So I took the opportunity of a couple weeks around the holidays of 2022 to step back from running and really address what I thought were the problems that caused my plantar fasciitis in the first place. So what was my underlying problem? Well, I have something called hallux limitus, which means the range of motion in my big toe, or just all of my toe joints, but primarily the big toe, is very limited. I only have about 25, 30 degrees range of motion, where a normal healthy range of motion is probably about 45 degrees, if not a little bit more in some people. Now, there's another condition called hallux rigidus, which means you have no range of motion, or maybe just a couple degrees range of motion in your toe joints. That's not my problem. I do have some range of motion in my toes, but if I don't stay on top of it, meaning through exercises and drills and just flexibility stuff, working on my foot, it will sort of stiffen up and I will lose some range of motion, which affects my foot strike, it affects my gait, and it will affect somewhere in my foot or leg. Maybe not necessarily plantar fasciitis, but I'll get sore Achilles, sore calves, sometimes I'll get sore glutes, something in my hip. My body will let me know there's something going on there. In 2022, I was getting that, but I realized I was ignoring it because I was running in just those max cushion shoes, Invincibles and Alpha Flies. The Alpha Flies are very stiff, stiffer than a Vaporfly, which is what I was typically racing and running in as a carbon-plated racing shoe, that because I was spending so much time in those high stack max cushion soft shoes, my toes were definitely losing some flexibility. I lost some range of motion there, which I should have paid more attention to. Additionally, I got a little lazy with exercises and drills, some of which I'm going to talk about later in this video, that I typically do on a daily basis to maintain strong arches, toe flexibility, good calf strength, Achilles flexibility, all of that stuff. So it was a combination of a lot of those things that finally, when I stepped back and really thought about it, talked to some coaches and trainers that I know online, and really began to address it through exercises, did I finally begin to resolve it. So what did I do to actually resolve it? Well, first, I started with all the YouTube videos explaining all the magic cures. Do this one exercise to fix your plantar fasciitis that I found on YouTube. I'm going to say that none of those videos work. There is no magic cure for plantar fasciitis. Once you have it, you've really got to address what the root cause is, like I just explained what I realized my root cause was, and then work from there with different exercises and conditioning that will help stretch that out or strengthen that area of your foot or leg to really address ultimately the problem. So all those videos, all those things I read, all those things I tried, none of them really helped. But the essence of a lot of what they're trying to do is really just about increasing calf and Achilles flexibility, because that's ultimately where a lot of this starts. So as my toe joint stiffened up, I was compensating for something else in my stride where my Achilles and my calves would probably take over some of that, or shifted some of it to my arch. Started with my right foot. As that got worse, I think my gait completely changed and it started to affect my left foot. So I got plantar fasciitis in both feet. Now, after the marathon, I stepped back and really thought about this, really was going to address it. And I did 5 things really that helped me get past it. The first one is I try to be as barefoot as I can, as long as I can throughout the day. Most days I spend about 90% of the time barefoot. The only time I really need to put on shoes is when I go run. I work from home. I don't need to leave the house unless I want to or unless I go run. So I'm not in shoes most of the time. Sometimes I'll be in slippers to kind of go around the house or go into the yard to water, something like that. But generally speaking, I'm barefoot almost all day, no matter what I do. Now, when I was just starting this recovery process in the end of December around the holidays, that was a little rough. So it did take me a while in the morning to massage my foot. I have a massage gun, or I just use my thumbs to sort of massage and get my feet warmed up and flexible enough where I could stand, or stand to put on a pair of slides that did have a little cushion and a tiny bit of support where I could start to walk around. But once my feet were sort of warmed up and flexible, I would try to spend as much time barefoot as possible. And now, almost 9 months, almost 10 months after I started this, I'm barefoot maybe 90% of the day. So be barefoot as much of the day as you possibly can, because that is just going to build flexibility and strength in your feet. And it's just the foundation for everything else that you're going to do in life, but also as a runner to have strong, healthy feet. The second thing, and I've already mentioned it, is really self-massage. So I would use my thumbs to really massage around my arches and my heel area. I'd also use these. These, I think, are probably one of the best investments you can make as a runner. They're both massage balls. This one with the little nubs on it, I prefer. I also like the size because it allows me to really kind of dig in to get like just the right spot. But this one, which is about the size of a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, if you know the size of that, is a little bit broader, so you can get a little bit wider area. I like both, but if I had to pick one, I would go with this one. You can also just use a golf ball. I don't play golf, so I don't have golf balls around the house, but golf balls actually work really well. And before I got these two, I would actually use a golf ball. Now, I find these massage balls better than a massage gun because I can really hone in on the area. And also when I'm massaging the bottom of my foot, when I do have plantar fasciitis, I'm never actually pressing into where the plantar fasciitis is. I'm more just sort of massaging around it, whether I'm moving my foot back and forth on the ball, I'm sort of massaging around the ball of my foot, the front of my foot, or I'll do the heel, or I'll, dive my toes into it. So I push my toes down to work on the flexibility of my toes. I'm never actually deeply pressing into the plantar fasciitis. I'm just massaging around it, mostly trying to increase blood flow to the area and to my foot, which I think it's obviously going to help with recovery. It's going to flesh everything out. It's going to help healing. It's a necessary step. And now, even though I'm plantar fasciitis free, I do tend to, when I'm sitting at my desk working, I do have one of these under the desk generally, and I'm usually rolling my foot out on them all the time. So I spend maybe, 45 minutes a day cumulatively massaging my feet with these two balls. Even now, I don't have plantar fasciitis because it's relaxing, it feels good, but also just keeps the blood flowing in my feet, which is really the main thing I'm trying to do most of the time. The next thing are these YogaToes, toe spreaders, but specifically the brand of these are YogaToes, and I've tried a lot of these. These are the best. YogaToes.com, I believe. Not sponsored, not promoted. I just love these things. These are a lifesaver. Now, I wear these probably a few hours of the day, and I wear them in 3 very specific times. When I wake up in the morning and I make coffee, then I kind of do emails or watch YouTube or whatever it is I do for that first hour or hour and a half in the morning, I have these in. That just wakes my feet up, stretches them out, and again, increases blood flow to my foot, relaxes my foot. It just feels really nice, and it's a great way to start the morning. Then I'll go do my run, and the second time I will put the YogaToes in is after my run, probably about 30 minutes after my run, when I'm cooling down, when I'm relaxing, after I'm showered, all of that sort of stuff. And I'll leave them in for maybe 30, 40 minutes. Again, just relaxing my feet, stretching my toes out, increasing blood flow, all of the same things. And then at night, when I'm relaxing, watching Netflix, hanging out with my wife, whatever that is, a couple hours before bed, I will put them in then too. And literally I'll have them in for maybe an hour or two at that point, where I'm just, sitting on the couch or, lying in bed or just doing whatever I am, staying off my feet. But I have the YogaToes in because they feel so good. They're so relaxing. Now, I know these things from barefoot running because a lot of barefoot running will prescribe toe spreaders to spread out your toes to get a natural toe splay. I've worn YogaToes or toe spreaders for well over 10 years now. My feet still don't have like a huge toe splay, and that just comes from years of snowboarding and stuffing my feet into boots that are way too small. That's another topic for another video. But I don't have the massive toe splay that barefoot people will say you'll get, but I do find these very relaxing, and I do find that they stretch out my foot and they help with toe flexibility quite a bit as well. So YogaToes, number 2, definitely worth the investment. They look funny, they feel funny at first, but they are magical. So the next 2 things are both sort of exercises, or I call them drills, that I do pretty much every day before I go run. And in fact, I do these when I don't run. So I run 6 days a week. I have one rest day a week. I basically do these every day, but I do them more when I'm actually warming up for a run. So the first one is what I just call a toe stand. Now, I learned this years ago in barefoot running, and this comes from a coach named Eric Orton. Eric is great. He has a YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description. I highly recommend you go subscribe to Eric's channel. But Eric is the coach from Born to Run. He's the one who helped Christopher McDougall fix himself and be able to do everything he did in that book. Eric had a program, and he still has a program, and he's a coach. He's a great guy. He's someone that I've learned a ton from over the years. And this toe stand really is something that I learned years ago from his original book called The Cool Impossible. Now, that focused a lot on foot strength, foot flexibility, Achilles and calf strength, and it had a lot of slant board work in it. I actually had a slant board way back when. I actually had the one that Eric designed. I don't use a slant board anymore, and what that is a piece of wood that's at a slant, and you stand out with your toes, and then you're doing a lot of toe flexibility. So it's preloading your toes, essentially. There's also a lot of stability that goes into that. I find just doing this toe lift, this toe stand, does everything I needed to do. Now, Eric and Chris also did Born to Run 2, a book recently came out the end of last year, actually, end of 2022, that actually has some of these drills as well. And they call this part of their foot core. Now, foot core has a bunch of other things, but this toe stand is really the best thing that I've found. So what it is pretty straightforward. Stand both feet, lift one foot up, and then lift yourself up on your toes on one foot and balance. That's it. It's a lot harder than it sounds. And as you can see in this video, I've been doing this for well over 10 years. It's still very wobbly. Some days are better than others, but it's actually a really interesting exercise because it helps you connect to not only warming up your toes, your arch, your Achilles, your calf, but it actually works on stability too. So you actually begin to learn a lot of little kinks maybe you have in your entire leg and stability overall. So it's a great strength builder, but it's also a great stability exercise. But I think this is the one thing that's really helped me get past plantar fasciitis the quickest, because it's loading the toes, I'm getting the toe flexibility, it's building strength in the arch because a lot of the lift myself up and hold yourself up is coming from the arch. It's building a lot of Achilles flexibility and calf strength. So it's an amazing exercise. Back in December, when I was first starting to do this as a rep again, I was just trying to do, 20 seconds, 3 reps of 20 seconds essentially. And sometimes I would need to hold onto a table to lift myself up. Once I got some of the strength and the PF went away, then I would focus on doing, 5 reps of 30 seconds. And now generally I'll try to do 3 reps of 1 minute to 90 seconds. If I feel I'm not super stable through those 3 reps, I'll add more reps, just again, to work on that strength and conditioning. So this exercise, toe lift, foot core, whatever you want to call it, I think this is probably the best one. Also, if you watch other plantar fasciitis videos, they'll talk a lot about standing on a ledge or a stair and doing the same lift, but then doing the dip so that your heel's going below your toe. I've done those a lot. I actually find this one, standing on a flat ground and balancing on the foot and trying to keep your leg straight, or sometimes maybe dipping your knee, again, just working on the range of motion and flexibility there. I find these actually more useful than that classic sort of stair or ledge exercise that you'll see a lot of PF people talk about in the first place. Now, the last thing that you do, and this is more around increasing toe flexibility for me, is what I call knee drops. Now, in this video, you can see that literally I'm just standing in front of a table. I lean into the table, I lean forward, I keep my heels on the floor, and then I drop my knees coming up onto my toes. Then I come back, straight legs, keep the heels down, then go straight. And I'll do a few reps of that, really working on the flexibility of opening up my calves and Achilles, and also that toe flexibility and the strength of holding that. So I'll also make a point to make sure that when I'm going up on my toes, I'm not going out on the outside of my foot. I'm pressing in with my big toes and really engaging those into the ground so that I'm really building that flexibility. This also works in yoga. If you do yoga or do yoga flows, you can do this also in downward dog. It's the same movement. Keep your heels down, pedal your feet out, drop your knees, do what feels well. I just don't always want to roll out the mat and do yoga. So I will just lean against the table, sometimes a wall if I don't have a table, and really do what you just saw in the video. These, again, are mostly for the toe flexibility, but they're probably the key movement that I do to maintain toe flexibility. So that's it. That's all I really do. Now, I do yoga. I do make sure that I rotate a lot of different shoes. I do still run, make a point to run in the Luna sandals or barefoot at least once a week, particularly when I'm building volume in the spring and the summer. Right now that I'm in a marathon build, I'm not running in Luna sandals or barefoot anywhere, but I'm rotating in Nike Streak Flies to make sure that I do have some flexibility. And this is one of the reasons I do like the Pegasus so much, is because the Peg is a good mix of enough cushion to make it a viable daily trainer to really do anything in, but it's also got enough flexibility and enough natural movement in it that it does keep your feet, in my mind, very healthy. But I do rotate a lot of shoes. I do yoga. I do diligently work on the exercises and the YogaToes and the self-massage that I did in this video every single day. And so far in 2023, I've not had any plantar fasciitis or really any foot problems beyond some blistering, which none of the stuff I talked about in this video is going to help with blisters. That's a whole other topic. But hopefully this helps you get a sense of some of the things that you can do to address your own plantar fasciitis. And the last thing I'm going to say is, once you feel the little hint of it's coming on, address it. Don't ignore it. There is no magic fix. There is nothing you're going to do like instantly to like turn it off. If you feel it coming on, address it. Address it aggressively. If that involves needing to rest a couple days, do that. And then come back to it and really figure out what has changed in your mechanics, what's changed in your gait that's maybe triggering this to come back. That is, if you take anything away from this video, that's probably the best thing I can tell you, is don't ignore it. Don't try to cover it up with a big cushy max cushion shoe. Just address it. You'll be thankful down the road. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. This was a little different than the content I typically do on this channel, but if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.